How's it going, everybody? It's James back here in the EdgeFinder. We're doing our weekly EdgeFinder video where we're going to take a look at our top buy and top sell of the week here in the EdgeFinder. If you're not familiar with the EdgeFinder is our market scanning software that pulls in data like COT data, retail sentiment, GDP growth, inflation, unemployment, lots of stuff, gives it a score and lets you know whether or not it predicts that it is a strong buy, neutral score, sell, or a strong sell. So lots of useful information here in the EdgeFinder. And I got to let you know before we get started that we're having our Black Friday sale at the moment, 40% off everything in our store, including the EdgeFinder. So use code A1YT at checkout for 40% off if you want to get the EdgeFinder for yourself. There's never been a better opportunity to get it. You get access to score chart summary, our market heat map, things like economic news, the smart money tracker where we can look at COT data, retail sentiment, our brand new Fed tracker. This is a brand new thing that we just added to the EdgeFinder last week that shows inflation rate forecasts, interest rate forecasts, US dollar impact, stock market impact, gold impact, and how all of these different metrics impact the currency or the stock. We have all of our major and minor currency pairs, indices, commodities. There's so much stuff here in the EdgeFinder, so much data useful for your trading, GDP growth, inflation, unemployment, interest rates. I mean, there's just so much useful data all in one spot here for your trading benefit. So again, Black Friday sale all month long. Use code A1YT for 40% off the EdgeFinder at checkout. All right, so let's just go ahead and get started. Let's take a look at our top buy and top sell here in the EdgeFinder. Our strongest buy at the moment is actually USDTRY, which is the US dollar against the Turkish lira, a pair that I can say that I don't think that I've ever actually taken a look at before. And I don't know if we're actually going to take a look at that today because I don't think many traders, as far as I know, trade the dollar against the Turkish lira. But down here we have some nice strong sells. Euro NZD, GBP NZD, Aussie NZD are all strong sells at the moment. GBP NZD and AUD NZD both being strong sells, scores of -8. So let's pick one of these to take a look at. How about AUD NZD? All right, so here we are in the Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar breakdown page. We got the Aussie versus the New Zealand. And here, like we said, a strong sell bias score of -8. COT data is actually neutral. We can come down here and look at our sentiment section and see that the New Zealand dollar is 35.41% long and 64.59% short, and the Australian dollar is 27.78% long and 72.22% short. So both NZD and AUD are heavily shorted by smart money traders. Retail sentiment, on the other hand, is 83% long, 17% short. So retail traders are pretty heavily favored on the long side. And that gives us a score of -1 over here.
It's Black Friday, which means we're having our biggest sale of the year and rolling out new products along with it. Nick is releasing his updated true trend following strategy that features things like his criteria for finding a trade, how to enter and exit, as well as managing your risk. If you're interested in learning the inner workings of his trade, check out Nick's updated true trend following strategy for a massive 40% off retail price.
If you're curious why we score any of the things the way we do, down here in our scanner output summary, we have a written analysis of why we score the things the way that we do. So if you're ever confused by that, or if you're just the type of person who learns better as they read, Scanner Output Summary is an awesome little tool right down here for you, so you can pause the video and read up on that to see why we do, in fact, score these things the way we do. Now, seasonality has a score of -1 as well. We're completely in the negative here, so I'm going to be saying that a lot, but seasonality score of -1. November, if we're looking at the all-time average, I see a downward trend moving from November to December. Really a downward trend all the way from September through December. And then the last 5 years, that was kind of consistent as well, except for November to December had a slight upward trend, last 5-year average. Our current year average was following, staying consistent with the all-time and last 5-year average, as you can see here. downward trends in these months, and that was consistent with the current year average. So that's why I find seasonality really interesting, is because you never know how some things just kind of stay the same. Historically speaking, we can take a look at the data all time and in the last 5 years and see that in these months price has gone down, and in fact in the current year it has followed suit. So I think that that's a pretty interesting feature right there. Trend reading is a score of -2, and that means that this market is definitely trending downwards over the past couple days, past couple weeks. How has this market been trending? Is it kind of in the middle? Is it on a sharp downward trend? A score of -2, that means that this market is on a sharp downward trend. And lastly, GDP growth, inflation, unemployment, and interest rates all have scores of -1 here. So we can take a look at our fundamentals section and see all of our data here. So Australia GDP growth 0.9% compared to New Zealand 1.7%. Australian unemployment 3.5 compared to 3.3% for New Zealand. Inflation in Australia 7.3% compared to 7.2%. And lastly, interest rates 2.85% for Australia and 3.5% for New Zealand. So everything leaning in New Zealand's favor at the moment. If you're new to this and you're kind of wondering, just exactly what we're talking about here, I like to look at it as the first pair up here is currency number 1, and the second pair right here is currency number 2. And we are choosing to buy or sell currency number 1 based off of currency number 2. And this is a really great example because all 4 of these metrics here are negative. So this is a really great example to take a look at, because we're trying to decide, do we want to buy the Australian dollar or sell the Australian dollar compared to the New Zealand dollar? Is the Australian dollar worth more or worth less than New Zealand? Well, let's take a look. GDP growth is the measure of economic output for a country. So GDP growth is a huge factor in a currency's strength. We can see that Australian GDP growth is only 0.9% compared to New Zealand's, which is 1.7. So New Zealand, better GDP growth. All right, so that is not good for Australian dollar, looking to sell that. But let's keep going. Unemployment, 3.5% for Australia, 3.3% for New Zealand. Obviously, a higher unemployment number means that more people are not working, which is not great for currency strength. So in this instance, because they have the higher number here and New Zealand's unemployment is lower, again, that is looking like a sell. We're going to sell the Australian dollar in favor of New Zealand dollar. Same thing here. Inflation. Inflation is not necessarily a good thing for currency strength. 7.3% compared to 7.2%. I mean, similar to unemployment, these numbers are close, but still in favor of the New Zealand dollar. So looking to sell Australian dollar compared to New Zealand dollar. And lastly, interest rates. Higher interest rates are actually good for a currency, typically speaking, because it's used as a measure to kind of fight inflation. But high interest rates are actually a good thing for the currency. So because not necessarily a good thing for the currency, but is a bullish thing for the currency, because typically speaking, as interest rates go higher, so does the value of the currency. So Australian dollar interest rates 2.85% compared to 3.5. So in all of these metrics here, they are all favoring the New Zealand dollar, which is why this is getting negative scores and why we are selling the Australian dollar compared to the New Zealand dollar. So there we go. That was a really in-depth breakdown of how you can use the EdgeFinder and what exactly we're looking at here. But let's keep going. We're going to take a look at our top buy. I'm not going to take quite as long looking at that. And you know what? Something just caught my eye up here, and that would be oil. Oil is a pretty popular thing to trade and something that I haven't talked about in a while. So why don't we just take a look at oil just for fun? All right, so here we are in our oil breakdown page. Not a currency, but still a fun thing to trade. We have an overall buy bias with a score of +5. COT data right over here. Our institutional trader data. Institutional traders are very long on oil, 79.54% long and 20.46% short. on oil, and we are currently comparing that to the US dollar. So we can take a look at US dollar numbers as well. 75.12% long and 24.88% short for the US dollar here. So institutional traders, smart money traders are both pretty heavily favored long on both oil and the dollar. Retail sentiment, retail traders are short on oil. They are 18% long, 82% short. Seasonality has a score of -1 here. And if we're taking a look at November, all-time average and last 5-year average, I'm seeing a very slight upward trend, historically speaking, for that. So that's something to keep an eye out on. Trend reading is +2, so that means that this market is definitely trending upwards, and we can actually see market price points right here in our daily chart, so we can see how it has been on the rise, as well as our little price forecast here. This is something that I haven't mentioned, and I will mention later on once we finish up with the rest of this data here. GDP growth, inflation, both scores of +1, unemployment score of -1, and interest rates score of +1. This, of course, is just US dollar information, because oil doesn't necessarily have an economy backed by it. Oil doesn't have unemployment numbers to go along with it, but a lot of the times you compare oil to the US dollar. So we can just take a look at US dollar numbers just for fun. GDP growth 2.6%, unemployment 3.7%. Again, unemployment numbers just came out, raised from 3.5% up to 3.7%. Same with interest rates. Interest rates were also changed this week. 75 basis point rate hike from 3.25% up to 4%. So now we're seeing 4% interest rates on the US dollar. And lastly, inflation sits at 8.2% in the US. So let's get back to this daily chart. What are these lines here? This is our price forecast. So what we're looking at here is if oil trends better, if oil continues to trend upward even better than it has been before, we could be seeing some price points around this green line here. This is not saying that these are definitely the price points, but these are numbers that we could potentially see oil being around if things continue to go well for oil. If they kind of stay on the same trend that they've been on, that oil has been on, then we're looking at this orange line here. This is kind of a neutral score. And if price dips lower, for example, if price dips lower going into tomorrow, this is what the software predicts we could see price points around. And if it kind of slows, because again, it is trending upwards, but if it were to go down and still trend upwards, these would be the numbers that we're looking at here. All right, so that was a look into the EdgeFinder. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Again, if you want this software and all of this data and information for yourself to help you with your trading, you can use the links down in the description below. Code A1YT at checkout for 40% off the EdgeFinder. Again, code A1YT for 40% off. That is our biggest sale of the year. Go get the EdgeFinder for yourself to help you with your trading. It is such a useful tool, and we've had lots of traders tell us all the time how much they appreciate the tool and how much it has helped them with their trading. So go try it out, code A1YT for 40% off. Make sure you guys check out the links in the description if you need broker recommendations, access to our free Discord, or want to chat with us on Telegram. If you're interested in our trading software, the EdgeFinder, you can find that in the description as well. Thanks for watching.